Ann's Excellent Adventures, Part 5. Let's get cracking. Good moto morning, beautiful people. Welcome to Kraken's Garage. I'm your host, Eric, and on today's episode, we're doing the 5th of a series of Ann's Excellent Adventures where she talks about the bikes that she's owned in her lifetime. Today's episode centers around the Honda CBR600F, otherwise known as the Hurricane. Let's get to the video.
And then I think, even while I still had it, I think I bought my first CBR600.
That was the Hurricane.
That was the Hurricane.
White one with red stripes.
Black, coal black with red Hurricane written across
you
the...
had bought another one then, because I borrowed a
That was
white.
the second one.
All right.
Yeah. No, the initial Hurricane that Honda brought out was black, and the tank had a logo decal on it in script. It said Hurricane, and oh, it was just gorgeous. Of course,
It was Bike of the Year when that bike came.
Was it?
It was.
It
was that shit hot.
it was wonderful. And we lived in Long Beach, but Flip worked for McDonnell Douglas, who maintained a facility in Yuma, Arizona, where they did all their flight testing because it was too expensive to test airplanes and land over and over again at a Long Beach airport. The fees were too high. So Flip was spending an enormous amount of time in Yuma, and he actually had an apartment down there. And I locked up the house, and I went down there, and I rode the CBR down to Yuma. And I don't know how I guess he must have taken his bike down too. Probably rode down together. And there was no garages to the apartment. It was very popular just to have
A carport.
Right. And your car or your motorcycle lived in the carport. And Flip was a little nervous about the CBR sitting in the carport. There wasn't any good way to lock it up. I think that's when we discovered the U-shaped lock that was made out of kryptonite. I remembered the word.
That was the name of the brand, Kryptonite.
Kryptonite lock, and you put it through the rear wheel and latched it, and nobody could drive it away, and it couldn't be cut with bolt cutters like a chain could. And so we locked the bike up, but I bought I remember a $55, which was expensive in those days, cover for it to keep it clean outside in all the sand and everything. And came out one morning and the cover was gone. I hadn't locked that to the kryptonite, and they'd managed to steal the cover, which bummed me out. But the problem was that Yuma was like 110 degrees in the summertime. There was no place to ride a CPR that was interesting. I think I made the remark the only place you could enjoy it was on a cloverleaf getting onto or off of a freeway. And otherwise it was just straight flat desert riding everywhere. So it was kind of disappointing. And I can remember taking it to a supermarket one day and parking it and going inside. And when I came out, I couldn't ride the bike home because the handlebars were so damn hot. And the seat, you couldn't hold them. You couldn't hold the handlebar. I went back in and bought a Coke and came out and poured this iced Coca-Cola all over the handlebars so I could get a grip on the thing and get it home. But it was not very successful. And after that, I took it back to Long Beach and kept it in the garage at home. And I used it for quite a while, loved the bike. Don't know why I sold it. It was probably a case of didn't really have any place to ride it. We didn't belong to a club. We were in the heart of a major metropolis, a lot of traffic.
In Long Beach?
In Long Beach.
Or were you in Orange County then?
No, we were still down at the beach.
Down on Ocean Boulevard?
Down on Ocean Boulevard.
I got so many tickets on that peninsula. Good God.
I had my closest call with being killed on that Ocean Boulevard. I was riding home from somewhere one day, not moving fast, fortunately, and a fisherman parked at the curb. It was like a 4-lane road with a concrete divider.
Right.
He was parked at the curb on the right, and I was watching him. He pulled out right in front of me, and I slid over to the left lane. But he kept on coming, and what he was doing was headed for the next cut-through on the median to make a U-turn and go the other way. And after he pulled across 2 lanes in front of me, he then pulled into the median and stopped hanging out in the lane. And I locked that bike up and I slid for 10 feet, laying down rubber. And I think I ended up like with the front tire 2 inches from his bumper before he finally pulled forward and went. And it gave me a taste for speed and scrubbing off energy and what you could do if in a pinch if you really had to.
And I think you need to be grateful that it was the Hurricane this happened on, which had cutting edge technology on the braking at the time.
It did. It was a beautiful bike. I had not taken the Motorcycle Safety Foundation course at that time. It was just getting started, and it was something that was offered on weekends, and you had to sign up for it and wait your turn. And I'd been riding for a couple of years by that time. I didn't think I needed to take a course like that. But Flip was pushing it. He wanted me to. So we signed up one weekend, and I think he went through it with me. We took the advanced course, not the basic beginners. Right. And the only problem I had with it, and they scored me down a point at the end, was that they wanted you to ride full tilt at a chain link fence in a parking lot where the class was being given, and then put on the brakes, and you were not to use the rear brake, is what they were trying to teach you to do. And I had sure used it on the CBR when that Mexican pulled out in front of me. You were supposed to use the front brake only, and there was sand on the parking lot. I wasn't comfortable with the sand. I wasn't comfortable with only using the front brake. I didn't understand the point of the exercise, and they had me run at that chain link fence 3 or 4 times, and I could not avoid using both brakes. I was just already hardwired to do that, and I
Muscle memory?
Yeah, couldn't not do it. So they graded me down on that. Flip got 100%. I'm sure he did whatever he had to do. And they hadn't invented ABS yet at that time.
Right.
And they weren't demonstrating it or selling it or anything else, but Flip understood the principle. And of course, he was a test pilot, and he had been breaking airplanes in all kinds of emergency situations and flat tires. And one time at Yuma, the landing beam was bent on the runway, and then the plane locked on the landing beam and went tearing off into the grass somewhere and sat. And he said, the tower called him and said, "Is there anything we can do for you?" And Flip said, I called him back on the radio and I said, "Yeah, send a truck out with a load of toilet paper on it."
And that brings us to the conclusion of this episode. Ann and I both hope you enjoyed her recalling her stories, the bikes that she owned, and we thank each and every one of you for the genuine, heartfelt comments that everybody's left down below. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. Peace.